Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Moto Coaster at Darien Lake. I've definitely had a long history with this ride. I rode it first when I was 6. This was one of the first semi-big coasters I've ever ridden because of course it's at one of my home parks, Darien Lake. And of course when I turned 48 inches, this was one of the first rides I rode. And back then I had way lower standards than I have now. So I thought it was one of the greatest things of all time, which obviously now sounds really ridiculous, as this ride really isn't anything too great at all, and I'll explain why in this review. So to start off, I'm going to go over how to actually get to this ride, which I don't do for many coasters. However, I think it's definitely necessary to explain the lengthy process that is getting back to Moto Coaster. So of course, when you walk in, you walk down that main midway, and you're going to want to turn right. And before you could just keep going straight by Boomerang, but now they blocked off that entire back area connecting Boomerang and Moto Coaster, which is one of the most annoying changes I've ever seen in a park. It is so bad having to walk all the way around the lake if I want to ride just Moto Coaster or Skyscreamer even. So yes, you do have to walk all the way around the lake. You can either take a shortcut that goes to the left and over a bridge to get to Moto Coaster, or you can go right and you could hit up Skyscreamer before, which I'd actually recommend doing because Skyscreamer's a much better ride than this, I would say. Now, when you actually get up to this ride, I will say it looks pretty stupid. I'm not a huge fan of the colors, and the whole tangled mess of track and everything looks nice, but what is under it is pathetic. They did not do anything to clean this ride up after they gutted out the pool that this ride sits on. So it doesn't look very good. But that can definitely be excused with a good ride experience. But yeah, as you'll find out in a minute, this ride does not have a good ride experience. So before you actually get on the ride, you'll have to wait in a pretty lengthy line usually, unless it's absolutely deserted, which in that case it probably won't be open because of staffing, but we're not going to talk about that yet. If it is open, expect to wait a good deal for this because it has one train, 12 people per train, and Darien Lake level ops. It is horrendous how many people they can get through an hour on this ride. And pair that with the downtime, and you've got a recipe for a really long line. So either get here really early, or just bite the bullet and wait it out for the credit. Because, I mean, what else are you going to do? Not get the credit? Once you actually get into the trains, you'll notice that these are the Zamperla Moto Coaster trains, and they are horrendous. These are definitely some of the worst trains in the industry, in my opinion. I hate how these ops have to staple you, and it's just so uncomfortable. Having your whole body pressed against the seat, you have to basically brace yourself every single transition if you don't want to get punched in the gut. And yes, contrary to what some of you might believe, I do think getting punched in the gut is painful and not fun, alright? I admit I'm a pretty messed up person, but I'm not that messed up. So you're finally going to pull out of the station and head into your flywheel launch. Now, there's a little theming sequence before this, if you really want to call it that. It's got the lights. And then once you actually launch, it makes a really cool sound. That's just the flywheels. But yeah, this flywheel launch is really punchy. This is the main redeeming quality of this ride. The rest of it does nothing, but this element right here, this launch, is actually fairly punchy. You know, it's not Mavericks or anything like that, obviously, but you know, it's got a good kick to it. I think I like this more than Backlot Stunt Coaster's launch. It's definitely one of the better ones, in terms of family coasters at least. But then you'll go up into a semi-intense right-hand turn, which, again, piles on a little G's, but nothing too major. But the main thing here is, yeah, you want to watch out for that gut punch when you get thrown forward. You definitely want to brace your arms and make sure you don't kill yourself on this. So then you're going to hit this little straight section at the top, and the rest of the ride is pretty lackluster. You hit a straight section doing nothing, and then you dip down, turn around, and hit this little switchback section. Some people claim they get good airtime on this. I don't know how people get good airtime on this. I pretty much always just stay in my seat, so that's a pretty lackluster moment. And then you hit another turn, go into another straight section, and then hit another turn, go into another switchback section. Again, not really dishing out any forces in my opinion. You hit another turn going into another straight section, followed by another turn, followed by a dip, which actually gives a little pop of airtime in the back row. It's barely airtime, but if you want to call it an airtime moment, there you go. And then you have a pop-up into the last turnaround, which does give a little pop of airtime if you're on the load side in the front. So I would say that is the best seat for not only the wind in your face, but that little pop there. And then you turn into the brakes. So yeah, it's a very boring ride for the most part, and you still have to brace for all those gut punches. But one last thing that I alluded to earlier that I want to talk about before the final score is this ride's downtime. This is one of the most unreliable rides I've ever seen. And I go to Darien Lake definitely over 15 times a year, sometimes 20, but this ride is definitely open in less than half my visits. I honestly wouldn't be too surprised if I have more rides on Air Force One than this. I think half of it is the flywheel launch and it being a launched Zamperla. We all know how those things go. But yeah, it's partially that, partially the unreliability from a mechanical side, but also I think it's staffing. It's in the back of the park. They may just think it's not worth opening on not so busy days, which, I mean, if they took a look at the lines, they should open it. But, you know, they're Darien Lake. You have no clue what's going on up there. So for Moto Coaster's final score, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. I know I'm a bit of a tough grader. I do think the flywheel launch is pretty good, but other than that, this ride does absolutely nothing good. It's not revolutionary. It doesn't do anything that other coasters haven't. It's a very mild ride, and also this is one of the few coasters where I actually brace myself for some transitions because I don't want to get punched in the gut. So pretty much any time there's a moment where you can get thrown forward, I have to stick my arms out and make sure I don't really get my gut thrown into the seat. So all of that makes Moto Coaster definitely a very subpar coaster in my book. So let me know what you guys think of this ride down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.